We face many points of inflection in our careers and our lives, from new jobs and promotions to difficult bosses and layoffs. If we had all the time and resources possible, we could certainly figure it out eventually, but we don't. The challenge is that we're walking into roles where expectations are sky high, timelines are crunched, and there isn't much patience. So you need an accelerator, and that's exactly where coaching can help. Think of coaching as a catalyst for your success. In Coaching Ahas, we share stories of leaders, their courage and vulnerability to lean into coaching, and the breakthroughs that change their lives forever. Welcome to Coaching Ahas, where we share real stories of talented coaches and clients, one aha at a time. My guest today is Tina Dao. She is a fellow coach, a success architect, and business executive. Tina, welcome. Thrilled to
Thank
have
you.
you on Coaching Ahas.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Wonderful. So, our goal here is to share stories of leaders and their breakthroughs. I know you have a really great success story. Paint the picture for us. What was happening with this leadership team and how did you help them?
It was a new team because there was an acquisition, very common that you are bringing together now merged groups and your new set of leaders. And every time you have a new group of people, you have to go through the forming, storming, norming, performing curve.
Right.
So the CEO very astutely knew having an offsite for this new group would be important to establish what was it that they were going to be doing and needing to do for the coming year, and just building some of the base
Yeah.
relationships so that they could work together. Brought me in to facilitate that experience, which was a multi-day offsite. People traveled from around the world. Also trusted me to design all of the prep work before,
Mm.
how the event would flow, and the follow-up afterwards. We did an assessment so that people could get a common language of framework to
Mm.
understand themselves, but largely each
Each
other.
other. Right.
Because remember, it's a newly formed team.
Right.
So now what is the language and how do we understand each other better, and who's got what superpower that we can tap
Yeah.
into,
Yeah.
right? So throughout the 3-day experience, started out with some of that those pieces, but then wove some activities, continuing practicing using this language and framework
Oh, that's amazing.
throughout
Yeah.
the experience. We also had very clear what were our desired outcomes
Mm.
as a group, and then for each person. The prep work included meeting with every person. I use different modalities, especially the preparation is a lot of coaching modality.
Right.
Asking questions, helping people tap into how do they want to show up? What do they want to get out of the experience so that
Mm.
they are prepared for when they walk into that offsite? They have done some of the prep work ahead
Yeah.
of what do I want to get out of it? Who do I want to be? How do I
Yeah.
want my colleagues to feel?
Mm.
I always think it's very key for one of these kinds of events that you have
Yeah.
a really solid follow-up plan so that
Mm.
people don't feel like that was nice, we did that, but then 6 months later or a year later, gosh, that this seems like the same conversations we're having.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, that was an important piece. They felt like it helped them get unstuck when they were stuck,
Yeah,
move forward and have a solid plan.
yeah. There's so many great pieces of insight in the story that you just shared. The first, I think, that stands out is that the fact that a new leadership team comes together is so common. But not
Mhm,
every leadership team, and certainly not every CEO, has the foresight to be
mhm,
able to pull the team together and to do the work that
mhm,
helps, do the grounding for people to be effective with each other. And so
Mhm.
that's really powerful. I think the second piece of it is that even as coaches, sometimes when assessments are used in these kind of facilitation contexts, it's like you do the assessment and then it's on a shelf and then you're doing like a whole bunch of other activities. So what
Yeah.
I love about what you shared is that you're keeping that theme of learning from, the self-assessment and knowing each other alive through the entire 3 days, which
Mhm.
is helping to solidify the learning for the leadership
That's right.
team. And I
That's
think
right.
the third thing that really stands out is that often people think coaching is warm and fuzzy, but it's really not. It's about the outcome. And what you were doing is trying to get this leadership team to the desired outcomes that you articulated. And so that really came across in your story. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah.
I'd love to know, is there one moment that sort of really helped them sort of build that rapport and come together through conversations?
There were several places. I think the major kind of aha that actually came out of it
Mm,
was it became clear for the CEO and that small subset for the coming year. Part of what they needed to do was focus on where was it they were going to be trying to go, identifying, finding a really key leadership position so that by the next fiscal and calendar year,
right.
they would be fully prepared to move to a structure that
Yeah.
was going to be for their longer haul.
Ah, that's really interesting. You've had such a successful corporate career. What drew you to the world of helping other businesses succeed? And why is it important to you?
I've always loved um, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial spirit.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that comes from the fact that my parents had a business, a small business. My father was sort of like got thrown into the deep end and started a business and built one that was very successful, and it was very challenging. It's really hard, right? And you
Mhm.
don't know all the answers. And you
Right.
have to wear many hats. And then being in tech, been part of multiple companies that were either startups, they were in startup mode. It feels like a natural evolution for me. I'm passionate about the people who have the courage
Mm,
um, and the sticking power to uh, not just have an idea, but to say, I'm going to start a business
mm.
and and find their market and stick with it and learn and then become an important part of a community.
You've had so many points of inflection in your own career. Is there one where you wish you had coaching but didn't?
Oh gosh, it was a colleague at when I was at Amazon introduced me to someone who was a coach and called himself a strengths coach because he used Strength Finder
Yeah.
as a base piece. And I saw the power with my team. And then I hired him to do stuff, same kind of stuff with myself and my family. I invested in myself. Once I did that and I saw how that investment in myself, how much
Mhm.
quicker I was able to learn and to grow and
Mm,
to look inside and to choose who I wanted to be.
mm.
Um, I was like, I had different kinds of
Yeah.
coaches for different kinds of things, and it accelerated not only my career, but who I
Yeah.
am as a person. If I would have known earlier that investing in myself in this kind of way,
Mm.
of having a coach for a specific kind of purpose, could accelerate my journey, I probably would have done it earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is such a great point you're making, Tina, because, I mean, I see this really weird tendency among Fortune 500 executives, especially senior executives. And that is that they are always waiting for the organization to
Yeah.
invest in them. They are not taking the
Mhm.
onus of their own growth right?
That's right.
By seeking out a coach themselves. And it's really weird. And to be honest, I mean, I think I was in the same place maybe a few years ago, but today I see that, when an organization is getting you a coach, they're getting you a coach to help you do what the organization needs you to do.
That's right.
But if you really want to figure out your journey,
That's right.
you've got to go out and get yourself a coach because, that's not
That's
going to
right.
happen necessarily through the organization.
You are 100% correct. These are some of the most highly paid people
Yeah.
in the country, and they are sometimes the most hesitant to spend their own money on
Yes.
investing in themselves.
So first, I think anything that coaching costs is a fraction of one of their salaries, right? It's really not,
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
significant. But what's interesting is that they don't think of ROI. They're only thinking of an absolute number, which I think is fascinating in itself.
I can tell you that the return on my investment has been tremendous
Mm,
in both aspects. The financial returns, because of where I was able to, the trajectory for my career, and the joy returns.
yeah. Last question. What's your favorite coaching question?
I think my favorite coaching question is when we are starting to draw to a close. It's not the final question, but we're maybe 10 minutes from the end of our time that we have
Yeah.
scheduled. My favorite question is, what is a powerful way to end our session?
Ah, interesting. Love
Sometimes it
that.
does a final unlock,
Push. Yeah.
and sometimes it is the crystallization of the
Yes.
ahas or the unlocks that have happened during the session that the person starts to articulate
Yeah.
and pull it together for themselves of what was powerful for me in this
Yeah.
time.
I love that. Thank you so much, Tina, for joining us on Coaching Ahas. This was so much fun. So many great stories, so much learning. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.